Hi, and welcome to the next video in the blending class at Hummy's World. If you are just now finding our videos, if this is the first one you've seen, please go to www.hummysworld.com and look for the class guides for the blending mode class and start at the beginning because we did a whole lot of learning about blending modes before this. If you are with us, there are 40 lessons and there's only about 5 more to go, and how amazing are you to have come this far. Give yourself a pat on the back. So with this technique, we're learning about edges. I'm calling it edges, but we've learned a lot about edges. I've given you plenty of edge examples in the previous lessons. So with this one, I'm kind of doing more of a vignette. And this is my image, so let's deconstruct it. I've only got 4 layers here. And so there's my original image of my hand opening up my post office box. And this image is actually, quite larger, but I resized it to kind of work with my goal, what I was going with. As with all the lessons, we are giving you a texture. And here is the texture for this image for this lesson that we're giving out, and it's a yummy texture. I think it's yummy. Now, it's so yummy I just want to make a digital scrapbooking layout with it just as it is. And as you've learned, some of the textures I give out are yummy and some of them are not so yummy, but with all of them we can make beautiful things. You just got to play with them. And if we zoom in, you can see this one. It's got some torn places and it's wrinkled. I painted it, and you know what all this little sparkly stuff is? I found the secret to making great yummy sparkly stuff on paper. It's pepper. This is pepper. And so the pepper was sprayed on actually, or shaken on and glued on after I had painted up the paper. And then even with the pepper on it, I wrinkled it all up and I spread it back out and I tore it up, and isn't it yummy? Anyway, so I think I've moved this to the overlay blending mode, was the blending mode that I used. And then there's my text. The text is actually picking up its color from this text paper. And so we're going to start out learning about a vignette. Now, there are lots of tools in Photoshop and Photoshop Elements already, and guides, and there's even actions out there for you to make vignettes. And I'm not going to do that. I like to teach you how to manually do them so that you can really understand them. Plus, if you want to manually change the vignette a little bit so that you can work with your particular image, such as for mine, my thumb here was just way too bright. It's getting too much focal weight, and I really wanted to use my vignette more right here to kind of make that toned down. And you can see here is my final vignette and how I did that, and how the thumb is toned down, and I have a vignette around the edge. So, but let's go look at some various methods of creating vignettes. First, create a new layer and fill it with white. My background color is with white, so I'm going to do a Control and backspace. Then we're going to get the elliptical marquee tool, and I have a feather of about 55, and just hold down your Shift and Alt, I believe it is, keys, and begin dragging out, and you see holding those 2 keys down keeps it proportionate from the center, and kind of drag it all out close to the edges. Now, don't worry, because when you're done and you let go of your two keys and your mouse, you can drag this into place a little bit. Now, that's not going to work if you go on the Move tool or some of your other tools. You need to be on your selection tool to be able to move it around. And now I'm just going to fill that with Alt Backspace, because my foreground color is black. If that doesn't work, try Control Backspace. I always forget which one's which. Control D to deselect. So this is what we will use to create like a white edge vignette. You can have white edge vignettes, or you can have a dark edge vignette. And so you apply screen to this, and you remember with screen the black makes no change, and so you see it's kind of fading out into the white on the edges. And then just simply lower your opacity until you got something that you think is cool. And so that would be a white vignette. Now I can simply go, I have some samples here I was playing with, but I'm recreating them. So I can duplicate this and just hit Control I, and now the outer edge is black and the inner edge is white. Or you could have started from a black square and then filled your selection with white, whichever way you want. But with the black edge, you need to use one of the dark blending modes. Multiply is a good one, to make the white area have no change of color. And then you can lower the opacity to get that little vignette effect. And now this is kind of like a spotlight vignette effect. Of course, if you have a rectangular photo, then you're going to be using an oval, and you're not going to be, making it proportionate like I was. Another thing that you can do with this, if that is, let's go ahead and put this back to normal and duplicate it. If this is not feathered enough for you, go on up to the filter, blur, and Gaussian blur, and you can play around with it, the slider, and just hit OK. And now you see it's kind of blurred it even more. So when you go to the multiply and then lower your opacity, it's even softer. So those are some things you can do. Now, what I did for mine, I created a new layer. My dogs have woken up from their nap. And I got a purple from the image, and then I went and grabbed one of my brushes that we made earlier from the brush tutorial, and I'm actually at 100% opacity, and I just kind of click down, and I could turn my brush if I wanted. I don't remember what I did back then, but I do remember that after I went around and made my edge, I went back and made sure I covered up my thumb, and then I actually kind of went in on the edges a little bit more so that it kind of gave it more of a rounded corner. And then I applied the blur, Gaussian blur, and after I did that, I changed it to the multiply blending mode, and I lowered the opacity a little bit, I think. I actually went back with that brush after I did that and kind of covered up my thumb even more with that purple. And so you can actually specifically go in and make your vignette more in some areas than other areas. I do this often, I'm telling you, often, when I'm working with just regular photos, not even these graphic images with the text. I actually manually, because the sky might come in so far on one side and not the other, or you might have flowers here and not there. And I actually manually lopside my vignettes all the time. I would much rather make them manually than any other way. And so I'm going to make this invisible and go back to the one. This is the one I actually created, my original one. And so the screen and the multiply, or it's just remember how you're working with the blacks and the whites and what reveals, what makes changes and what doesn't with the dark and the light and blending modes, and make your edges and your vignettes. That's your lesson. And of course, as always, you can use this texture or any of the textures previously in the class. Please show us your recipe and a screenshot of your layers palette so everybody can try to go back and maybe do what you did and we all learn together. I look forward to seeing what you do.